what was the vibe? I mean, we just went over the vibe at Chase Center. Were there enough people in Oakland to have a vibe tonight? That's a question.
You know, most importantly, it was about who wasn't there, and I'm not talking about the fans. I showed up, I sat down in the dugout, I took a photo. I said, I'm here, I'm ready to talk. John Fisher, A's owner, Dave Kaval, A's president. Nowhere to be seen. Probably off in Vegas trying to get a deal done. But when you're the leaders of a Major League Baseball franchise, you're responsible for that franchise. And when this is the first home game you're playing, coming off this big Las Vegas news, you know there are going to be tough questions to answer. And what happened? They weren't there, which meant we had to talk to the players and the manager, the people not responsible for the move. Also, speaking of fans did show up there at the BART Bridge. We have some video of that. They protested before the game. Lots of sell signs, lots of let's go Oakland chants. Sell the team, interestingly enough, sounds a lot like light the beam, which is the Kings chant. And remember, the Sacramento Kings went through this. They almost left Sacramento. They almost lost their team. They fought, they clawed, they ended up keeping that franchise in Sacramento. They have a beautiful new arena. They host the Warriors for a Game 7 tomorrow, so it can be done. But here's what Mark Kotsay and Tony Kemp had to say when I caught up with them before the game.
Obviously sad for all of the lifelong fans that have been coming to games, and you know, ultimately they could be losing their team.
Yeah, I definitely understand their emotion. You know, if you don't have feelings for the fans right now, then you haven't been in this organization or don't understand what the history of this organization is about. You know, this organization's heritage came from Philly and went to Kansas City, and it's been here for 55 years. So, you know, we definitely understand what the fans are going through. Our mindset is that we need to go out and perform and play the game and give the effort and show the fight and show the grit that we talk about.
That's the hardest part about our job is, you know, there's a lot of outside noise that you kind of just have to disregard. And, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we are paid to play baseball and to go out there and just have fun doing it. And I think, obviously, you know, we're going to be thinking about the fans and the fans that have been diehards their whole lives. And, you know, hopefully they bring the energy.
Yeah, so they did bring the energy in the protest. But like I was saying, it's unfair that those guys, Tony Kemp, has to sit there and answer questions about Las Vegas relocation. That's not his job. His job is not to have to deal with us asking things like that. He wants to just play baseball. That's his job. You know, he's trying to get on the field and earn a living, not answer for the ownership's decisions. And so it was a weird scene at the Coliseum, I must say, and I don't know when we'll actually even hear from Dave Kaval, and we'll probably never hear from John Fisher, the A's owner, because he never speaks. So there we have it, Larry. Another day of silence coming from the A's organization.
Not really that much of a surprise given the way this whole thing has played out, and you've been at the forefront of all the reporting. I guess the question I would have from the fans' perspective, and you know, the fans are, you know, connected with you through Twitter. You're like the Pied Piper of A's fandom at this point. But you know, there was some talk, let's boycott, let's do, but I think there's a sentiment that, hey, if we boycott, one, you know, we're boycotting guys that we want to watch,
yeah,
and it's not really impacting John Fisher or Dave Kaval or the people that you're really angry with or the fans are angry with.
Yeah, John Fisher is getting a revenue sharing check either way, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, there's a school of thought here, and it's a tough one for A's fans, and I've spoken with many of them over the last week, and it's, if we're going to lose this team, you know, this is our last chance to just go and enjoy it and make new memories and just be there for the squad. And like you said, this is not the players' fault. So to have them come out and play in front of an empty crowd, that's tough on them too.
Yeah.
And so, yes, they're paying the price for ownership's decision and ownership's inability to get a deal done here in Oakland when it was 90% of the way done, according to my sources. It was right there. So what happened?
That's a great question.
Checkbook?
Well, this is an interesting scenario because I think a lot of people just assume, well, they're gone. They're gone.
Yeah.
But if you look at all that's going on in Las Vegas, they're not getting the same deal that the Raiders got, $750 million, and will just charge the taxpayers and all that.
Yeah.
In fact, the more that gets revealed about the possible terms of an A's relocation to Vegas, the more you're starting to hear prominent people in that community go, wait a minute here. What happened to the private financing? What happened to all of that? And you posted a story today about this is so. I mean, when I saw this, I was like, this is so classic A's. This is rooted in John Fisherdom. But explain the story here, because when I read it, I was just like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah. So Mick Aker of the Las Vegas Review-Journal, he's been all over this from the Vegas side, kind of like I've been on the Oakland side. He reported that when they were trying to obtain the Festival Ground site, which is owned by, casino magnate Phil Ruffin, a guy with a lot of power in Las Vegas, the A's were trying to structure a deal where the casinos would have to backstop any shortages in the revenue on the A's stadium. So the A's plan was to come in and tell the casino operators, the most powerful people in all of Las Vegas, that if we can't pull this off, you get to pay us for the privilege of being here. And how is that a way you show up to a new market and ingratiate yourself with the most powerful people there? So that's why you start hearing these rumors that VIPs aren't exactly happy with the A's in this process. And, you mentioned the Raiders, you mentioned the Warriors. We've seen this happen before, but it's different because the Raiders were given $750 million in public funds, and they're being blocked at the Coliseum site by the A's. Obviously, they were going to take the $750 million to move to Las Vegas. Las Vegas didn't have a stadium. Now they have one with the Raiders. They don't need a second one right next door. The taxpayers don't need that. And the Warriors had the rights to San Francisco.
Right.
So if you're going to build $1 billion arena, I mean, no offense to Oakland or anyone in the Bay Area, but land is more expensive and more valuable in San Francisco.
Right.
They had the right to build there. That's where they did it.
So a couple of questions here regarding the Las Vegas situation. What is the sense? I mean, obviously, Mark Davis, his quotes about A's management, ownership, he doesn't like
they were
them.
Rough. Yeah,
he does not like them, to
Yeah.
put it mildly. It seems like there's more and more opposition to the A's going to Vegas. Mm-hmm. Is it possible that in one fell swoop they managed to destroy their leverage in both Oakland and Las Vegas by making that ridiculous announcement last week?
Yeah, so let's backtrack to the announcement real quick. So why was the announcement such a big deal? You remember, we talked about it many times.
Yes.
Oakland was dead quiet once Shang Tao, the new mayor, came into office. And it looked like they weren't even doing anything because they would not talk about the A's. They would not talk about Howard Terminal. Well, it turns out they wouldn't do that because they had an agreement with the A's not to talk about Howard Terminal at all, not to mention negotiations, not to mention a thing. The A's were doing the same, you remember. Dave Kaval, the guy that's the mouthpiece for the ownership, wouldn't talk either. So when the A's came out and dropped this leaked announcement in the middle of the week, that was a huge betrayal because they had all agreed not to say a word. And now all of a sudden there's this big leaked article with quotes from Rob Manfred and Dave Kaval, and then the city of Oakland walked away from the table because they were betrayed while they were in the middle of trying to finalize negotiations.
But the Vegas people are looking at this and starting to see the terms of a deal that does not look that favorable for the city and going, wait a second here. Well, this is not what we were signing up for. So now you're the A's who, look, the city takes some responsibility. There's a lot of people here that have had their hands in the pie that have messed things up along the way. We can go back 20 years of A's Stadium.
It's a long saga.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. We don't have time to go. Actually, we do have time, but we're not going to do it. But there's a lot of blame to go around here. But now you look at what the A's situation is, and I'm not sure that they can get the deal in Vegas that they thought they were going to get. But leaking the announcement that they had an agreement to buy land is a very different conversation than not only do we have the land, but we have the funding and we have the support of the community. I'm not sure they have the last two items at all.
Well, I don't think they have any of it. And here's the thing. Why would you announce a stadium site without renderings ready to go, right? Without a design architect on board, without all the things you would need to excite the people in Las Vegas about this big purchase you just made. They did it with none of that. Not to mention they don't even have legislation passed to get the money they need to complete the stadium. So when Oakland pulled out in negotiations, they did that not to help them in Las Vegas. And now Vegas doesn't have to rip the A's away from Oakland. Now they're like, oh, we got the A's now. So maybe we don't need to go as crazy giving you our public funds and tax dollars because we have you anyways. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, this is like, There will be a class at Stanford on negotiating stadium deals, and this will be a chapter.
You know who will teach that class?
Dave Campbell, because he does teach at Stanford.
He teaches at Stanford.
All right, to be continued. We're a long way from done with the A's in terms of what happens with their stadium or where they go. But anyway, nice black suit.
I gotta say, I mean, we always joke about all the naps that happen back in the sports department, but you guys got a lot to deal with right now.
This is what the naps are for, Alma.
That's
Exactly.
true.
Yeah, so
That's true.
Yeah,